Thanks for tuning into my show. Today I'm going to talk about different types of yarns and fibers and when to use which for what projects. It can be really overwhelming sometimes to walk into a yarn store and you see all these different types and you don't know where to start. So we're going to talk about the different types, when to use them, and also how to identify unknown yarns. So you probably have a couple random skeins laying around that you got from either a friend or from the thrift store, or you lost the label, whatever. Stay tuned for the end. We're gonna do the burn test and identify our mystery yarns. But basically there are two main types of yarns. There's natural and there's synthetic. The synthetics include like acrylic, polyester, nylon, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Of the naturals, there's animal-based fibers and plant-based fibers. So the most commonly known animal-based fiber is wool. And here it is in its natural form. This is about an ounce of just raw wool. That's what it looks like, cleaned and carded and ready to be spun. The natural oils in wool are water resistant and also naturally antibacterial. This is also 100% wool. This is fisherman's wool. I got this at Michael's. Wool is great for winter projects because it's really warm. It actually wicks moisture off of your skin. So even if you get wet in the rain or the snow, you will still be warm with wool. So that's one reason why it's great. Another great thing about wool is that it felts. Here's a Peruvian 100% wool. This is great for felting. So is the fisherman's wool. Here is a felted project. So wool shrinks in the wash, which I'm sure you've made the mistake of accidentally washing something that's wool and it shrinks and it's kind of ruined. So that's one reason why people don't like wool, but you can intentionally felt things like this purse that my neighbor who taught me how to knit made this, and it's so special and it's such good quality yarn and wool and it's gonna last a long time. Wool is super durable like that. If you pick a good one, it will last a long time. It's also has great elasticity, so it holds its shape. Assuming you don't felt it and shrink it, wool holds its shape really well and it will come back to the same form, whereas like something like cotton, it's going to stretch out over time. Same with acrylic. So more about that later, but here's another type of wool that my friend Cedar actually spun for me from really raw coarse wool. It's not something I would put on my skin, so I ended up making a dog sweater with it. Wool's great for dog sweaters. Dogs love wool. I wouldn't use wool for babies because it can be a little scratchy on a delicate skin. Some people are also allergic to wool, so that's kind of another con that people might not use wool. But as we get into some nicer wools, like this right here is merino. It's so soft. This is 100% merino wool from Malbrigo, and this is really good quality yarn. Here's a hat I made out of this yarn. It's so soft you can't even tell that it's wool. This is also a merino wool, but this is a superwash merino wool, and it's kind of the one exception to the felting property is that this superwash is already treated so that it will not shrink. Superwash would be great for socks because it's something that you want to wash daily and that you're going to use a lot. Here's another sock yarn. This one's merino wool and 15% nylon, which is a synthetic, but sometimes naturals and synthetics are blended, and we'll talk more about that. But why you would blend this with nylon specifically is because nylon stretches. So now we have a sock yarn that's even extra stretchy, so that'd be great for something like socks. Now we're getting into, these are also wool blends with acrylic. So this is loops and threads. Also, it's kind of like Wool Ease from Lion's brand. Great for making hats and scarves. This is another, I think, Fireplace Comfort, and it's acrylic wool blend. Here's a hat I made out of this. So it's really warm. It's got like the soft and cozy feeling of wool and the washability of acrylic. So blends are great for that. I sell these on my website at lj.com if you're interested. I also have the tutorial on my channel. It's called the Alpine Beanie if you want to make one. Okay, different types of animal fibers. I have an alpaca here. Alpaca is super soft, like so almost too soft where it's gonna actually pill on you a little bit, or like pull apart. So that's really the only negative thing I can say about alpaca, is that it's almost too soft, right? It's very delicate. So the softer you get into the animal fibers, the also more delicate you get, and the more expensive you get. But this alpaca by Ella Ray is actually 70% acrylic and 30% alpaca, and the reason you would blend it like that is because the acrylic gives it a little more structure and durability and also washability. But not all blends are created equal, so always read the label to see what kind of washability your natural yarn has. Another great thing about alpaca is that it has like this really nice sheen to it that you kind of only see with silk, which we're getting to, and maybe bamboo. So those are the only three. Like regular wool doesn't really have a sheen like alpaca does, and that kind of makes it extra special. Now getting into, we have mohair here. Mohair is from a goat, and it's kind of thin and hairy, and it's not often used by itself. It's often either blended or mixed with an acrylic or maybe a cotton or a wool, whatever. It's kind of thin and not the strongest. I think you can rip it pretty easily, so it's nice to be blended with other things. This is actually a mohair and silk blend. Silk, also an animal fiber, comes from the silkworm's cocoon, is then processed into silk. I don't actually have any 100% silk. It's not something you find at any store, really. It's also very expensive, but silk, this one is blended with mohair, and it kind of gives it a little extra strength and luster to it. And it's really soft. This is a really nice yarn. This is Silk and Mohair by Bitches and Butches. Stuff like this and the alpaca and these like really nice merino yarns, you're not really going to find these at department stores. You're going to find these yarns at your small independent shops, which tend to have more expensive, yes, but also much better quality natural fibers, wool, hand-dyed things, and specialty small batch yarns that you're not going to find in department stores. Department stores are great if you want a really consistent product or very consistent color within a product. You're not going to get a lot of consistency with like hand-dyed things as you are with mass-produced items. Department stores are great for saving money. I find that a lot of them have acrylic mostly, which is of the more affordable yarns. It's also a very durable yarn, and we'll get more into why acrylic's great, but depending on if you want like a nicer quality, more unique yarn, I'd go like smaller shops versus a very consistent lower price point yarns at department stores. But there's also a lot of great yarns, like no matter where you go. So try out as many different kinds as you can, and that's really the best way that you're going to know what's right for you. A couple more natural fibers. Oh, I ended up finding an all silk yarn that I had. This is not traditionally, this is actually recycled silk yarn from Nepal. You can see they kind of just took leftovers from the clothing they make there and twist it into a yarn. They don't really produce silk yarn like this normally. This is kind of just their way of using the scraps and turning it into a product. It's a silk is very like fine and very thin. It will not felt like wool will, but it's a really great quality yarn, and if you can find it where it's like, you can make really nice like silk shawls or I don't know. I don't use silk very often because it's expensive and it's hard to find. But I hear it has a really nice drape and it's durable and it mixes great with other yarns. Some of the other animal fibers that are out there that I don't have here today include cashmere, which is from the cashmere goat, and it's very soft, very delicate, and very expensive. I don't have it here today. If you've ever had like a cashmere sweater, I'm sure it's amazing. It's also very delicate. It's like dry clean only. That's another fiber that's often mixed with other fibers to increase its strength and durability. Another fiber is Angora from the Angora rabbit, also very rare, delicate, and expensive. I don't have any. Let me know if you guys know any good brands out there that aren't too expensive. The last one I can think of is Camel yarn, Camel fiber, which I've only used once, another really rare, delicate one. But I really liked using it, and it was soft, and it was nice. It's not one of those that you find at your everyday store. Just to recap really quick on our animal-based fibers, they're from animals, so they're meant to keep you warm. They're great for your winter projects like hats, scarves, socks, mittens, gloves, sweaters, that kind of thing. You have everything from your coarser, really feltable type wools to your softer, more fine wools and other animal fibers. They're environmentally friendly for the most part. They're natural, biodegradable, sustainable. I can't speak for each company's practices, but generally the natural stuff is better for the environment. The only reason why you wouldn't want to use these is because they're a little more expensive and not necessarily machine washable friendly. So those are really the only two cons in my opinion. And now we'll start getting into the other type of natural fibers, and that's plant-based fibers. I've got a couple of different plant-based yarns with me here. Fibers include cotton, linen, and hemp, which I don't have today unfortunately, and then there's bamboo and viscose, which are more or less the same thing, and I'll get a little bit into that later. But overall, plant fibers are natural and sustainable for the most part, and they're very durable and machine washable, so that makes them great for your household things like dishcloths, pot holders, market bags, pillowcases, stuff like that. That's going to kind of be used daily and can take wear and tear and that you want to wash. So here is like a standard cotton yarn. You've probably seen Sugar and Cream brand. It's kind of found in those department stores. There has a lot of really fun colors, and this is a great durable yarn for those everyday items like I just mentioned. This yarn, however, like some of the least expensive cottons, tend to be kind of tough to use. They're a little bit stiff, so I wouldn't recommend starting with this if you're just beginning crochet or knitting because it can be a little difficult to work with. However, there are some nicer cotton yarns that are really soft and easy to work with, like this one here by Mirasol. It's a Peruvian cotton and it's super soft, and you can just see how flexible it is, so it's a little bit easier to work with. It's softer and it's also more expensive, but the good stuff always is, you get what you pay for. And then there's this cotton, which is mercerized cotton. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know too much about that process, except that it's meant to hold on to the color of cotton longer. So whereas, like a standard, least expensive cotton might fade a little bit, like if you leave it out in the sun or wash it too much, the mercerized cotton will hold on to that color longer. This is a really special yarn. This is a cotton and wool blend, and I like the wool blend because it makes it just a little bit softer and easier to work with, in my opinion. I love making like summer items, like a summer shawl or summer top out of this, because plant-based fibers are great. They have a cooling effect, so you want to make like your summer items out of more plant-based fibers, because unlike wool, which wicks the moisture off of your skin, cotton kind of keeps it next to your skin and keeps you cooler. So I wouldn't use plant-based stuff for your winter items, but for your summer items it's great. I made a top here with that yarn. Even with the wool blend, it's still like very breathable and light and soft. I call this the boho crochet top, and I feature it on my channel, so I'll link that tutorial below if you want to make one, and I'll also link some of the other brand name yarns here just in case you want to go out and try them. That's great. This here is a really special cotton yarn. It's from the Japanese brand Noro, and it's a cotton, wool, and silk blend, and it makes for a really unique yarn, and the yarns are super special, really colorful art yarns that you're not going to find at any department stores. If you happen to find some Noro yarn, I suggest giving it a try. Worth the extra $. Really good quality stuff. This is linen. Now moving on to a different type of plant. Linen is from the flax plant, and it's a little bit on the more like luxurious side. Even though it feels kind of coarse, it actually gets softer as you wash it. It is a little more expensive, but this is from Quince & Company. This is an organic linen, so this would be also of the more sustainable plant fibers, where like cotton, linen, and hemp are a little more sustainable. I don't have any hemp yarn. I'm not sure if I've ever seen hemp yarn. It usually comes in the form of either twine or fabric, but it is another plant-based fiber. Viscose is a type of cellulose-based fiber. Bamboo is technically also a type of viscose, generally. It was designed to be fake silk. So they took these plants, it could be from different plant stocks. Bamboo is one type of plant that's used to make viscose. It's also called rayon. So it's kind of natural and kind of synthetic, like a really true hybrid between the two. Unfortunately, bamboo is sometimes marketed as eco-friendly, where actually that's not really true. It is technically plant-based, but it goes through such an intense toxic chemical process that ends up hurting the environment more. So I would consider that more of a synthetic, to be honest, whereas like the cotton, linen, and hemps are the more like sustainable plant fibers. The viscose, rayon, which usually includes bamboo, are more like synthetic naturals. Anyway, they're like their own category. This here is a cotton viscose blend, and a reason you would blend that, well, the cotton is like kind of tough and matte looking, but the viscose, or it might be bamboo viscose, I'm not sure. It just says viscose, it's just generic, but it has that sheen that alpaca and silk have. So like this has a really nice bamboo sheen. This might be mostly bamboo, although it is generally mixed with other things. Like this one is bamboo and wool. So this like furry tuft is wool with some bamboo in there to make it extra strong. It's very durable, just like the other plant fibers. It's just not the most sustainable, but it does make a great yarn, and it is technically just plant-based. So just to recap quick, the plant-based yarns are durable and washable and great for your summer items because they have a cooling effect. One thing that cotton and other plant-based fibers doesn't have is elasticity. So wool will hold its shape, for example, whereas cotton things over time will stretch out a little. And granted, cotton does shrink a little bit in the wash, but generally over time these fibers don't hold their form as much as, say, wool would. Cotton and bamboo specifically, I would say, are great for those baby toys and baby clothes. All these fibers are actually naturally hypoallergenic and antibacterial, so that's fascinating. However, I'd stay away from linen and hemp for the baby stuff just because it's a little more on the coarse side, whereas bamboo and cotton are on the softer side. Another reason why you might not use these is because they're a little bit tougher to use than some other fibers, and the good stuff is also pretty expensive. So other than that, plant-based fibers are great, and now we'll move on to our not so natural fibers, and that's the synthetics. So I got a bunch of fun synthetic fiber yarns out here. That's one of the great things about synthetic fiber, is that you can get really bright colors and fun textures, and also some consistency between products. It's also more economical, a little bit on the inexpensive side. But the main drawbacks, like with these synthetic fibers such as acrylic, polyester, and nylon, is that they are not environmentally friendly. They are actually petroleum products, and essentially plastic. So not that cool environmentally, and they're not gonna break down in a landfill either. So depending on what you're making, like if you want to make a blanket or something, that's great. If you make a blanket out of acrylic yarn, it will last forever. And you can wash it. These are all machine washable, although I wouldn't like machine wash those really textured ones because the machine will mess that up. But like acrylics, very machine washable. They're also great for like a very consistent color and product. You get a lot of these at department stores, and so it's great for consistency and also really even colors throughout the whole skein. So these are some standard acrylics. This is from I Love This Yarn, and this is Karen's Simply Soft. Acrylics are really soft generally, and they're great for things like blankets. I also make hats out of them, like this is a little alpine beanie. Faux fur, also synthetic. This is probably polyester, whereas this is acrylic. Acrylic is, you can really make acrylic into a lot of different textures. So if you have a yarn, you're not sure what it is, it's hard to tell with an acrylic because it can come in so many different forms. And so you have your standard stuff here. Here's like a really fun acrylic yarn. This is Jewel Spun, and I love this, although it is kind of hard to find. I actually import this from somewhere in Europe, but it's an amazing high quality acrylic yarn with a lot of fun colors. This is Homespun by Lions brand, another acrylic that kind of looks like it might be wool, but it's not. It's plastic, unfortunately. And this one is a little bit harder to work with, how it's, I don't know what you call this, but boucle or something, or it's like thicker, fibrous, and then like wrapped in a thinner fiber. So that's another fun textured one. And now getting into some like polyesters types, you get the really fun textures and furry things with polyester. So this velvety smooth yarn is 100% polyester. This faux fur yarn, also polyester, 100%. Don't wash these. I mean, you can, but it just might mess up the texture. Not so much like destroy the fiber, just, you know, make it like weird. And then over here we have some like ribbon yarn. This is really fun to use and comes in a lot of different colors. Polyester can also be really shiny and metallic, so that's fun. We have, this is Fun Fur, I think from Lions brand yarn. This is like a fun thing to accent other projects with. Not many people use this by itself because it's kind of hard to work with. Also, you can't really see what you're doing when you have something this furry. So this is a little more advanced, like accent type of stuff. And then we have this eyelashy, really furry yarn. I believe this is Boa from Bernat. So it's got like this feathery texture that's also kind of hard to see when you're working with, but it's really fun and gives it a nice like look and texture. And then we have these two, which these are like mohair synthetic blends. So the mohair is like that furry kind of texture, and then it's mixed with like metallics and then probably some polyester to give it some strength. So I personally love using the synthetic natural blends because you get like the softness of wool or mohair with like the fun colors and textures of the synthetics. Synthetics can be made into all different kinds of textures. They can be smooth, rough, colorful, coarse, like you name it. They can make it however. So sometimes it's hard to tell, like if you don't have a label, it's hard to tell an acrylic. But we're going to move now into the burn test, where I'm going to help you identify what some of your random unlabeled balls of yarn might be. So here I am set up for the burn test. We're going to use fire and some of our other senses to determine what types of fibers that are in all these yarns. So carefully light a candle on a plate with all your selected yarns laid out. I actually already know what they all are, but that's besides the point. I'm here to teach you the different properties of these fibers when it comes to heat and fire, and how you can use that to determine what fibers they are. So carefully light your candle. Okay, and please be careful when you're playing with fire. Some things might be flammable, which you are about to learn about. Okay, so grab the yarn that you want to test and cut a small piece of it. And we're just going to burn the tip of this. So this is the yarn. Oh, can't really see it, but It's kind of soft. I'm not really sure what it is, so we're gonna burn it and see what happens. Okay, so you see that actually caught flame and is definitely burning. Oops, I blew up my candle, but that one was flammable. And if we look closely, okay, let's look at this. Let's see what happened. See the end there? It kind of melted a bit, and I'm getting like a scent of burnt plastic. So we know this is a synthetic because you're getting that burnt plastic smell. Also, it melted a little bit at the tip. Don't use acrylics for anything that's heat related because it will melt and it's flammable. As you saw, it burned. I had to blow it out. So that's acrylic. Next one, oh, I gotta relight my candle. Okay, next one, we're using this pink yarn that's back here. It's like pink and white. So I'll give that a little burn. All right, what's happening here is it's definitely burning, so it's flammable. So it could be acrylic, it could not be. So I had to blow that one out, and it's flammable. It has a little bit different scent this time, so it's smelling more like burnt paper. So burnt paper is gonna probably be a plant fiber. And see how this kind of like ash, like it actually burnt rather than melted. So this is a plant fiber. I'm going to tell you now that it's cotton, and another way you know that it's cotton is that it has like that ropey texture that's kind of tough. So when you're feeling it, it's got a certain, kind of has a pretty specific feel, like a t-shirt like that. Just that cottony feel, and it burns. It smells like burnt paper, and it's also a little bit flammable. Okay, next one. Give it a little burn. What's happening here? It's catching really quick. Burn it out. Take a look. I'm smelling burnt plastic again, and again we have that melted tip. So that is another synthetic that we have there. Next one. This one is our gray yarn back here. It's kind of furry. Looks like it might be natural fibers. Can look kind of furry and a little bit coarser than say the synthetic ones, but that's not necessarily true if you have like a merino wool or something, which could feel very soft like acrylic. So we'll give it a burn. Oh, and that one put itself out. Try one more time. And again, that one put itself out. So only certain types of fibers do that, and that's animal fibers, are flame retardant. So wool almost always will immediately put itself out. It does burn a little, leaves a little bit of ash, yep, and has more of a burnt hair smell because it is fur from an animal. So it kind of smells like burnt hair. It burns for a minute, ashes, and puts itself out because it's flame retardant. So another great quality of animal fibers there. Okay, moving on to this next one. It's this blue. This one. Oh, that one also put itself out. Again. This one is another wool because it did the same thing. It burnt, it put itself out, it ashed, and there's a little bit burnt hair smell. Now, looking at this one, see how there's like actually two fibers? There's that blue stuff, which is probably the wool, but then there's like a black thread mixed in there too. And I'm willing to bet that black thread is polyester. Polyester is mixed with wool sometimes to give it this cool texture and to give it some more strength. and that I can just tell how it's like thin like thread. Thread is usually also synthetic. So this is actually a blend. So sometimes the burn test like won't indicate if something is a blend or not, but we can use our other senses like sight to look at it and see what the texture is. Okay, moving on. Here is our next fiber. It's this one over here. And it's burning. Definitely still burning. And oop. It like kind of tried to put itself out there for a second. Let's just try that one more time. Oh, that time it, sorry, I don't know if you could see that, but that time it put itself out. We'll zoom in for you a little bit. That one kind of, it put itself out. So it's probably natural. There's some natural fibers in there, but it also has a sheen to it. So this one is either another blend or like the natural fibers. It put itself out, but it also kind of burns, so that's why I think it might be a blend. It also kind of melted, so that's where I think it would be also synthetic, and that sheen kind of clues me into the fact that it might either be viscose or cashmere, but it's not cashmere because it's just not as soft as cashmere would be. It's not alpaca, it's not that soft either, so it's probably a viscose blended with some natural fiber. Okay, got one more to burn for you today. This furry one. Let's give it a go. And whoa, that went up quick. Kind of, well, it did put itself out, but watch one more time. It like catches really fast, and then, oop. So, like I said, careful, and but that one caught up really pretty quick. Let's see. That one burnt super fast, so it's definitely flammable. And as we look at it, it's definitely got a sheen to it, and it definitely doesn't smell that great. So I'm thinking this is definitely a synthetic. I can also kind of tell that it's synthetic just by how it looks. It's shiny and like these fibers are coming off. Like you don't usually see wool like that, or natural fibers do that really. And you can tell the end there is also kind of melted and how quickly it caught on fire. It's probably polyester, which is very flammable, so keep that in mind when using polyester. It's flammable and it will melt. So all the synthetics you know now melt, so don't be making them anything heat related, but they are also machine washable. Well, not this one because of all its fibers, but the other synthetics are. And also they're flammable, whereas the natural fibers kind of tended to put themselves out and ash, kind of like more naturally a natural product would. And then ones that kind of do both of those things are probably blends. And you can also look at your yarns and based on like textures and colors and feeling, can also identify what types of fibers that might be. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to hit subscribe and stay up to date on my latest videos.